It's the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show on iHeartRadio, your place for fun, informative, weekly car talk.
And welcome back to In Wheel Time, the automotive talk show, the award-winning automotive talk show.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
And I know we won an award a couple of years ago for our interview with Antron Brown, and we're going to win an award for our interview with the Grand Poobah of the Houston Auto Show and HADA, Roshelle Salinas.
Poobah. Is it
I
Poobah?
hope that you win that award.
She is not a poobah. No.
So a quick recap. How did the Houston show go? Did you guys set some more records again this year?
Well, I mean, having the first ever automotive event really set a record.
Automotive. I like that.
Yeah, across the country, people have really been talking about, how the auto show combined with the boat show. And, we've been trying to revamp auto shows across the country and try to come up with something really clever. And thankfully, this really came together for us. And people really see it as a great match. And so do we. And it turned out to be really great. The attendance had really awesome feedback talking about the atmosphere just when you walk into NRG Center, how great it was. And I mean, during still a quasi-pandemic, we had like 70,000 people show up.
Wow.
So that's pretty huge.
Yeah.
I would think so. But that's not what you're here to talk about today. You're kind of here to talk a little bit about what's going on in the Houston market and the auto industry as an overview.
Yeah, we're looking for some good news after 2 years of bad news.
Well, it's definitely been a roller coaster ride for sure. And I mean, we're moving slightly in the right direction, thankfully. We are up Q1 of 2022 over Q4. So we are seeing, more vehicle sales, which means there is more inventory there somewhere. So that's been in the right direction. We're really grateful for that. It was still slightly down only by a couple thousand units over Q1 of 2021. But I think that's that roller coaster that we are on for that ebb and flow of inventory availability. And, we're lucky talking with dealers. We just had a luncheon a couple weeks ago and talking with them, it's a mixed bag across the OEMs on who's getting inventory and who's really seeing an increase. But Toyota, the Stellantis group, all of them are definitely really seeing inventory coming back on particular vehicles. So that's why you're seeing all those paper plates out there.
Well, and I've also noticed that a couple of manufacturers have kind of tweaked their advertising on television, and that is, and I know Ford and GM are doing this for sure, that is go online to Ford.com, Chevy, Buick, Cadillac, GMC.com, and order your car, because what you're talking about, inventory levels are still pretty low at most stores, where 5 years ago, some of these dealers that have 1,000 units in inventory today, they're lucky to have 100. So they're selling right off the truck. They're selling basically sold units, because for sales to be up for this quarter and the lots to be so empty, that has to be a real strong indication that they are selling straight off the transport truck.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The trucks that are arriving, 90% of the vehicles on those trucks are sold, and the others are sometimes a surprise allocation to the dealers. But they're selling those within, the next 48 hours as well, because they've got a list of people saying, hey, I wanted this vehicle. I came by and checked it out. You didn't have it. And they hold that, in their pipeline and are calling people. So they're selling them right away as well.
Yeah. And last weekend when we went out to the drag strip, you'll pass by numerous dealerships on the way from the Houston area out to Baytown. And many, many, many lots were empty.
Lots of concrete out there, with very
there were a few that had
cars
some,
in inventory.
but
it's
empty.
Good to see that they have adjusted to selling from almost an online order, and then as the truck arrives, the salesperson's calling the customer saying, hey, your car's here, we're pulling it off the truck, come and get it.
Yeah, I mean, our dealers are very adaptable, and so they've learned through this pandemic of what to do and what the customer wants. And I think the customers has been asking for customized order vehicles for a long time, and all of the online deliveries and transactions, and they're making that happen now. So that's also helping drive those sales. One of the areas where, this increase in sales this first quarter is still, not as strong as we want it to be, is the interest rates are definitely going up. So that's becoming a challenge. And this average vehicle price, I mean, we're at a car average vehicle price of $39,000. So nearly $40,000 for a vehicle. I remember starting this job. I think the average vehicle price was like 26 7 years ago. So that's a really big sticker price for, any standard vehicle today.
And that number continues to climb. I think the some of the stuff you had sent us to look at was kind of projected an average vehicle transaction price somewhere in the 50,000 range before the end of this year, which is kind of mind-boggling that that kind of market is out there for those price cars. And I realize there's a certain amount of $20,000 cars and a certain amount of $100,000 cars mixed in there.
Sure.
But a $50,000 average transaction price is getting up there.
Yeah.
But when you look at where some of the most popular vehicles being sold are, that pickup truck, that half-ton pickup truck, well equipped, 50,000 is not an unusual price for those.
That's touching the base, the stripper side.
And when you looked at the Houston market, let's say, it's typically 4 trucks to every car.
Yeah.
So that still an extremely strong truck market down here, which is why some of the manufacturers introduce some of their truck ideas down here. And the car business is waning for a number of reasons. More people are moving to CUVs, SUVs, but more manufacturers are stopping car production altogether. Chevrolet, they sell very few cars or offer very few cars anymore, and they've switched everything over to a wide range of CUVs and SUVs.
Yeah, another interesting tidbit I saw in that InfoNation automotive news report is that the Nissan Sentra made it back into this market share after being off the top 10 list since 2020. And I think that's really a sign kind of the inventory coming back, because why else would that have dropped off for 2 years and then come back on, in those top 10 vehicles? So I thought that kind of is another positive sign to say, okay, these vehicles are getting back, into the pipeline and getting into the hands of customers. So we do have some inventory coming up.
And do you think some of those moves on that list were driven purely by availability of inventory?
Oh, absolutely. And the manufacturer prioritizing production, whichever vehicles are selling the best, they have the best ROI on, and that uses the least microchips, or at least the microchips that they can hold off on.
Right.
I've heard from a couple of customers that they're getting vehicles minus microchips for things like the seat warmer and the steering wheel heater and that kind of stuff. And they're getting those delivered to them after the purchase and reinstalled into the vehicle once they're available. So I think the manufacturers have really modified that process to be able to get the vehicle in people's hands too.
And the top 3 vehicles sold in the Houston market have been the same top 3 vehicles for quite some time. Ford F-150, Chevy Silverado, Ram 1500. Toyota RAV4 kind of surprised me as the number 4 vehicle here in the Houston market. So kind of congrats to them. And then, of course, followed by the Camry and the Nissan Rogue and then the Sierra 1500 pickup truck. So, other than the Camry, it's all trucks and SUVs up there at the top of the list.
Yep, it's been that way for a while, too. We're definitely a big vehicle market here in Houston, as in big as in size.
Yes.
So what is new coming up for next year's show? I know that prior to this one, you were on with us, and we suggested maybe putting boats in with it. And, of course, you took that idea.
You're gonna take credit
I'm
for
thinking either airplanes or motorcycles. You got to pick one. And
that would be a great addition. I know one of the shows in Florida was trying to get this new drone passenger plane, but it's not piloted at their show. And I was like, well, that will be interesting, but it's still all in prototype. So it's kind of hard to get.
Oh boy.
So
you could do trial. You could ride around inside the NRG. That way you wouldn't have to worry about the weather.
It's a
drone. It'll be a parking transport.
Yeah, one person at a time.
Oh man, not me. And also on the information that was sent to us, you got a golf tournament coming up?
Yeah, we do. The Houston Auto Dealers Association, as you know, we do a lot of things in the community, and a lot of what we do for the community comes from all of our actions from the Houston car dealers. And so we have a dealer appreciation event on Monday, to thank our dealers for everything that they do. And we'll have a fun golf tournament out with a bunch of our associate member sponsors supporting them. And we're lucky to be able to get out there and have a little bit of fun through all the hard work that everyone does.
Maybe
in the
get
city.
Don to. Can we sign Don up for that?
Yeah, he should be our MC.
There you go.
Yeah, because Don doesn't golf. But one of the big things that HADA supports here in town is the Motorist Assistance Program.
That's right.
And it's a godsend for somebody who's stuck out there on the highway when the guy in the van shows up to help them figure out what's going on or help them coordinate.
We actually just got the delivery of their 2 new trucks that we purchased for them this year. It took about 6 months to get the trucks in. But we got those to them, I think this month they took possession of those vehicles. And so, yeah, that's free roadside assistance 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, all across Houston. If you run out of gas or need help changing a tire or just need to move off the roadway so you're safe, they'll come and do that for free with you. So it's a great program that we support and ran by our sheriff's department. And it's something that, we should all remember when we're out there on those busy, scary freeways.
And in remembering them is when you see them there and their lights are on, give them a lane, move over. Yep. Generally, they're going to be stopped on the right side of the highway. Move over 1 lane to the left. Give them space. I think the law for law enforcement is you got to give them 20 miles an hour slower if you're in that lane, or give them the lane. Life is so much easier just to give them the lane. Mm-hmm. Somebody pops out a door unexpectedly for whatever reason, and you're going by at 70 miles an hour is not a good day.
It's not going to be. Roshelle, let me ask you, we talk about EVs a lot. Everybody's talking about EVs and stuff. Have you, and I didn't really notice it in the material you sent, are you hearing any kind of talk on the lowdown that nobody wants to do publicly that you can share?
I'm actually wearing my Evolve Houston t-shirt right now.
There you go. All right.
We're working very closely with them to help kind of move this EV market. It's kind of challenging here in Houston, and it's going to take a little bit of a lobbying campaign to get more availability of EV vehicles here. We're really competing with this inventory microchip issue with vehicles coming to Houston versus vehicles that have a priority of EVs like California and New Jersey, New York, et cetera. So once, we kind of get past that hurdle and inventory comes back, there's definitely a high increased interest in EVs. And Evolve Houston is kind of the coalition here in town that's really working towards building that awareness and education for the consumer, because so many people have never even seen or sat in an EV, but they are interested in learning more, especially in today's climate challenges and inventory issues and everything. People are like, well, let me just check out all the options today.
Right.
So I think, it's definitely, there's been more sales. I did an interview a couple weeks ago with 2 EV consumers that had purchased vehicles, and one was purchased here in the Houston market, but one they had to purchase in Georgia because it was the only place that they could find the vehicle that they wanted. So we've got those hurdles to get through to start driving sales in EVs, but our dealers are, looking forward to that opportunity. And I think it's going to be a big part of the auto show moving forward, as well as really that education piece of talking about EVs and what people need to be able to drive an EV.
And especially now that EVs are starting in production and coming to market of the big 2, let's say General Motors. Hummer EV is still a small volume thing. They're talking about Silverado EV, but Ford, the 150 Lightning, I believe they just started production on this week or last week. And we're going to have somebody on from Ford here a little bit later to talk about that, because that's, that means if they're starting production on it, they're just weeks away from showing up at the dealerships.
Well, they had a very big high demand on the Ford F-150, and they've got huge wait lists all across Texas. That is going to be really interesting to see how Ford is able to meet that demand with people already saying, hand raisers saying, I'm signed up and have a deposit on this vehicle. So hopefully they can come through pretty quickly with a lot of that production. But even, locally, I know that the Kia Niro is super popular, and it cannot stay on a dealership's lot for a whole day. Like as soon as they get one, it's sold. It's been a very popular EV vehicle as an SUV because it's a more affordable vehicle, but also it's got all the great Kia technology in it too.
And it's cute.
Yeah.
And what's it, the Hyundai Ioniq 6?
Yeah, the Ioniq. That's the
Um,
one that I saw that was bought in Georgia. And man, it's a beautiful vehicle.
That is a well-styled vehicle. I mean,
Yes.
it is pretty to look at, much less being environmentally friendly, being a pure EV.
Rochelle, do you hear the dealers talk about what they're having to do to get ready to deal with the EVs from a service perspective? Do you hear anything about?
Yeah, I mean, y'all know me. I tell you like it is, but it's a really risky challenge that they're really having to evaluate, not just on the service department side of it, but just the infrastructure to get it all ready. There's a lot of conversation and evaluation going on with ERCOT and Centerpoint and all of the electric providers because, to make the electric program fit in their dealerships is quite an investment. And none of that, the charging stations are standardized today. So is that investment going to be of value in another 5 years when
Good point.
it might change? So it's a hurdle for them to consider. How's that going to look? The other interesting topic I heard the other day was an EV person expects when they go in to get their vehicle serviced that they're also getting a full charge when they're there. Well, as gas drivers, we don't get a full tank of gas when we come out of the service department. And so how is the dealer going to pay for that electricity that they're giving them during their service? Who pays for that? The manufacturer, the dealer, the customer, somewhere down the line. So those are all things that everyone's really having to evaluate that are kind of the minutia details that they may not have thought about when they're just like, buy an EV. It's great.
Exactly.
Well, on top of the expense of training for the technicians, training for the salespeople.
Yeah, it's a whole different process.
The technicians, I know just from my experience with the Nissan Leaf, is they rope the little section off and you're not allowed to cross into that section and you have to wear very specific gloves that will block the electrical transfer, and you have to get those replaced every 6 months. Sending your guy off to get trained somewhere is never cheap because they don't do some of that EV training here locally. So, to earn the right to sell an EV, and I'm going to go F-150 Lightning, and we'll find out later, I imagine they are going to have a certified technician to service and maintain, and if nothing else, just to do the pre-delivery inspection of that vehicle. So there's a lot of build up to that point where you're certified to sell one.
And in the sales too, they're going to have to know how to sell it.
Right. And it is a completely different sales tactic. And that's something Evolve Houston is working on for training dealerships as well, because it is a different sales approach. People have different questions and how to make the vehicle work at home for charging and logistics, for travel and all of that kind of stuff. It's completely different consumer profile. So I think I just working in the auto industry and being a part of HADA, I feel so honored to be a part of this EV evolution because this is a big piece of technology. This isn't just a cell phone that we got to learn which apps to use. There's so much that's coming along with this as far as legislature, technology, home use, everything that, comes down to it in so many ways. And it's really fun to see how things are going to change over the next, 10 and 30 years.
Well, there's also an element of lifestyle that's got to change. You got to change about the way you think about things to adapt to that technology so that it works for you and works for everybody. We run into that every once in a while just with the vehicles that Don and I drive, trying to figure out, can I go this far and where do I get it charged? And, it's always a learning curve every time we get one because things are changing so rapidly.
That's right.
And you mentioned Evolve Houston is training now. Are they available to go into dealerships to do training on EV sales process, marketing and stuff? Is that something that
they have created a sales program that they're partnering with dealerships to get to help with leads and drive test drive events as well. But it is a sales training platform that they've created in partnership with Buzz, who you guys have had on the show, the EV evangelist.
Oh yeah,
right.
And so he was the number one Bolt salesperson in the state of Texas for many years. And so he's got some real experience behind how to sell to the EV consumer. And so that's they're taking that into effect, because it's not just the product features anymore. It is that lifestyle aspect of owning the EV too.
And he is an enthusiastic EV angelist.
Absolutely.
And understandably so.
One of the things I was thinking of, we talked about chips, and this is all evolving, going from gasoline into electric. Which vehicles have more chips, the electric or the gas? I mean, is that going to be a factor moving down the road?
It comes to option content, like Rochelle had mentioned earlier, that certain options some manufacturers aren't offering because it saves them from putting a chip in. Same thing on the electric car side. You know, you need certain number of chips to do certain numbers of things. If they can restrict the option content some, they can build more vehicles, or they can build less vehicles with a wider range of options.
Which takes the priority.
In today's market, I'm assuming the EVs are going to take the chips. You know, when you look at the direction Mary Barra is talking about with General Motors, you look at where Ford's going with this. GM actually just changed their pay structure, driving increases in pay for senior executives driven by EV sales. So I think it's all going to push that direction.
Interesting.
Rochelle,
interesting change.
You have dates set for next year's Houston Auto Show?
Yes, we're the last week of January, and we will also have preview night back. So,
nice.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's the 23rd through the 26th, maybe off the top of my head, but it's that last Wednesday through Sunday of January.
So again, the Houston Auto Show is betting that the Texans won't make the playoffs. And that's a good bet to make.
We've got a couple of years to hold our breath on that, but yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's always a pleasure
Thank you.
talking to you. We learned so much.
Thanks. A pleasure, guys.
Have
Take
a good
care.
day.
Well,
That
lots
was
of
fun.
stuff going on.
Always learn something from her.
Lots of stuff going on in the Houston market, and believe me, Houston market is one of the strongest markets in the auto industry. And now we're going to take a listen to Don, who taped a Mazda CX5 2022 Mazda CX5 review.
Had a chance to drive the 2022 Mazda CX5. It comes in multiple trim levels. They start with the S, the Select, the Preferred, the Carbon Edition, the Premium Plus, and then a couple of turbocharged engines in the Turbo and the Turbo Plus. I had the 2.5-liter Turbo all-wheel drive. This is considered a small SUV. Seats 5 passengers. Exterior changes, not much, just some minor tweaks to the front and the rear fascias. This is the second generation Mazda that debuted back in 2017. And again, updated headlight, taillights, and some minor mods to the front grille, but that's about it. You can certainly tell that this is a Mazda with the Mazda logo in the center of the front grille and that distinctive Mazda look. The CX-5 accounts for 1/4 of all Mazda sales. Doing my research, found that out. I thought that was a pretty interesting feature. Flat wheel openings painted to match the body. It's interesting, and I kind of like it. Short overhangs, front and rear. It does have larger wheels and tires in the upper trim levels. What I liked about it, the overall attractive yet conservative design. What could use improvement? Nada. I couldn't figure out anything. Interior highlights include a symmetrically balanced dash with a very nice instrument cluster, not overdone, comfortable seats, but no lumbar adjustment. That part of it was kind of disappointing. Infotainment is controlled by a knob on the center console. And if you've listened to my car reviews before, you know that there are other manufacturers that want to do that sort of thing, and I don't approve of it. I don't like it. It adds an extra layer of distraction, but this is what it is. Second row folding seats offers tons more room in the cargo area out back. The cargo and trunk room, more than it appears from the outside. What I liked about it, the compact nature of everything with lots of interior space. What could use improvement? One of the worst infotainment systems I have ever worked. Hard to understand the controls. Multiple layers of pages to change the radio stations. Why? Astrophysicist Katie says, why? Okay, now on to the engine. 2.5-liter turbocharged with 256 horsepower. That's a lot for this little SUV. 320 pound-feet of torque, 6-speed automatic transmission, tow rating at 2,000 pounds. City, it gets 22 miles per gallon. On the highway, it gets 27, combined to 24. I got 24.7 over 500 miles. What I liked about it, the peppy optional engine in the upper trim level is awesome. What could use improvement? Better mileage through an 8-speed or CVT transmission, in my opinion. Ride and handling, it's a little stiff for a small SUV. Gives it a kind of a sporty feel if that's what you're into. What could use improvement? Optional suspension, perhaps, in the upper trim levels. Base price, $36,400. Price is tested $38,795 for a base model price at $25,900. Competitors to the vehicle include the Honda CR-V, starts at $26,400. Toyota RAV4 for $26,525. And the Subaru Forester goes for $25,395 on the starting price. And that's my review of the 2022 Mazda CX-5.
And that's a good-looking little SUV as well, I think. It's a very good-looking SUV. So let's talk a little bit about some of the events that are going on tomorrow. Coffee and Chrome at the Avalon Diner down here off of Southwest Freeway. Exit Highway 90 and take the first. It's kind of at the south end of the Fountains.
Yeah.
Shopping center. Also is the Social Pub and Grill in Katy. Their car and truck show is tomorrow, and that's from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. The Monumental Big Bug Bash at San Jacinto Monument out in LaPorte, and that's a VW-only car show. Entry fee is $20. You want to go see a great collection of VWs, and that's from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Tomorrow. Then again, the Alvin Rotary Club is they're having an event at National Oak Park, and finally on the tomorrow is the Woodlands Cars and Coffee for a Cause, and that's at 9595 Six Pines Drive in the Woodlands, and that's supported. Well, Randy Weldon's always involved in that.
Yep.
But all of the money that they raise for that, 100% of the proceeds that they raise for that is donated to various local charities, and just kind of shows the philanthropic behavior of the auto enthusiasts here in the Houston area, because they raise thousands of dollars every month for whatever show is going on, whatever charity is going on there.
And I think I'm going to try to make the Chrome and Coffee at Avalon Diner tomorrow. That'd be fun.
Bring out your V-Series.
Yeah, well,
SRX.
no, I don't display it. I just go out there and see all the neat stuff and have breakfast.
A good breakfast there,
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
So with that, let's
take a break.
Take a break to the top of the hour.
And we'll be back.
When we'll come back
right
with
after
Ford.
these messages.
Father's Day weekend, Saturday, June 18th, 2022. It's the next Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In, and you're invited. Tailpipes and Tacos Father's Day edition will be at the same Loopy Tortilla in Katy, 8 to 11 a.m. on Saturday, June 18th. It's the only place cruisers compete for trophies and other prizes. Enter your vehicle for Best Hot Rod, Best Classic, and Best Modern Classic. Tailpipes and Tacos is Houston's coolest cruise-in and is your opportunity to see the best hot rods, show cars, classics, and resto mods, and get Loopy Tortilla breakfast tacos and adult beverages. There's no entry fee, and cars will automatically compete for custom Loopy trophies and other prizes. It all happens at the Loopy Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10. Kick off summer with Tailpipes and Tacos Father's Day edition, Saturday, June 18th. The In Real Time Car Talk Show will be there too. Celebrate Father's Day, the start of summer, and the return of Tailpipes and Tacos. Saturday morning, June 18th, 8 to 11. We'll see you then, weather permitting. The In Real Time Car Talk Show is now part of the iHeart family. Now you'll have access to 24/7 Car Talk anytime you need a fix. Just download the iHeartRadio app and ask for In Real Time Car Talk, and there we are. Be sure to save us in your iHeart library for instant access. No matter where you are, you have the best Car Talk Show right on your PC, laptop, or mobile device and never have to worry about finding us again. Of course, you can always get access to our video and audio streams via InRealTime.com and your favorite podcast channel, and all of this is free to you. From the iHeartRadio app, you'll not only hear our Saturday morning live show, but the best shows of the past, updated weekly. Never miss a minute of up-to-date new car reviews, pre-owned reviews, Conrad's Car Clinic, informative interviews, automotive news, and the most fun car talk show on the planet. Just download the iHeartRadio app, search for In Real Time Car Talk, save it to your library, and with a tap of the icon, you'll be in touch with your favorite Car Talk team. In Real Time Car Talk, streaming now on iHeart.com/InRealTimeCarTalk.